Before she wore the crown, she wore this uniform. The year was 1945, and the world was still at war. Standing proudly beside a military ambulance, this young woman wasn't just a princess. She was a mechanic and driver for the Auxiliary Territorial Service. While bombs fell over Europe and nations fought for survival, Elizabeth chose to serve, learning to repair engines and navigate rough terrain. This image captures more than duty. It's a rare glimpse of humility, courage, and the making of a queen. Who could have imagined that this soldier would one day lead an empire for over 70 years? The year is 1965. In the streets of Lithuania, something as simple as a skirt could spark shock, whispers, even cultural rebellion. Look closely. These young women are wearing miniskirts, a fashion trend that had just begun to sweep across Europe. For decades, hemlines barely rose above the knee. But now, bold, short, and daring, they challenged norms in a society still clinging to tradition. And the soldiers' faces say it all: surprise, curiosity, maybe even a hint of scandal. This wasn't just fashion, it was freedom stitched into fabric, a quiet revolution walking down the street. This photograph captures a moment that feels almost unreal today. Iran, the 1960s, a time when beaches were open, fashion was bold, and women like her embraced freedom without fear. Look closely, the carefree pose, the stylish outfit, the confidence. Just 2 decades later, everything would change. The Islamic Revolution of 1979 would impose strict dress codes, reshape society, and erase scenes like this from public life. This image isn't just nostalgia. It's a silent echo of liberties lost, a reminder of how quickly history can rewrite the rules. This isn't a movie scene, it's real history. Italy, 1957. A woman stands on the beach, wearing what was considered scandalous at the time, a bikini. But instead of freedom and fun, she's handed a fine by the police for indecent exposure. Hard to believe, right? Today, swimwear is a symbol of personal choice, but back then, it sparked outrage and moral panic. This photo freezes a moment when society was caught between tradition and modernity. A reminder of how quickly the definition of acceptable can change. Take a good look at this young man, smiling on his wedding day in 1965. His name? Stephen Hawking. At this moment, he's just 23 years old, brimming with dreams, and holding the hand of his beloved Jane. What no one could have imagined is that within 2 years, Stephen would receive a devastating diagnosis: ALS, a disease that doctors believed would take his life in just 2 years. Yet here he stands, unaware that his mind will one day unlock the secrets of the universe. From this fragile moment of love came a story of resilience that defied science itself. Sometimes, the greatest revolutions are born from the quietest smiles. Look at this baby, peacefully lying between 2 trophies. The year? 1927. She had just been crowned the most beautiful baby in America. For her parents, this photograph wasn't just cute. It was a symbol of pride, hope, and a promise of a bright future. Back then, baby beauty contests were wildly popular, turning infants into instant celebrities. But behind the charm lies a curious question. Why did society place such value on physical perfection, even for babies? This picture captures an era obsessed with appearance, long before social media amplified the pressure. A fleeting title, a lifetime of expectations, and a silent reminder that beauty standards have always started far too early. This image captures a moment you might not expect. Albert Einstein, the world's most famous physicist, standing humbly as he takes the oath of U.S. citizenship. The year was 1940. Just years earlier, he fled Nazi Germany, a man who revolutionized science now running for his life. Here, in this simple handshake, lies a profound story. A refugee finding safety, a genius seeking peace in a world at war. Einstein once said, The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. This photo is more than history. It's a reminder that even the greatest minds long for freedom and security. Look closely. This little girl, just 6 years old, walks into history with a briefcase in hand and federal marshals at her side. Her name? Ruby Bridges. The year was 1960, and she was the first African-American child to integrate an all-white elementary school in the South. Behind those doors waited anger, hate, and mobs of adults screaming at a child who only wanted to learn. Ruby didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She walked with courage most adults will never know. This image isn't just about the past. It's a warning and an inspiration. Change doesn't come easy. Sometimes it comes in the small, steady steps of a brave little girl. Look closely. This man is Otto Frank, standing in a silent attic that once held the laughter and whispers of his daughter, Anne. It's 1960, and he's the only one who came back. The walls that hid hope now echo with loss. Otto is surrounded by emptiness, but every corner screams memories of a family murdered in the Holocaust. Imagine walking into the place where your child dreamed of freedom, knowing the world betrayed her. This isn't just a photo. It's a wound in history, a reminder of what hate destroys. Otto's face says what words cannot. Silence can be louder than screams. Will we ever learn? Look at this frozen moment in 1961. A German soldier, armed and uniformed, standing by a wall of barbed wire, glances over his shoulder in fear, and then he does the unthinkable. On the other side, a little boy reaches out, terrified, desperate. This isn't just a photo. It's the Berlin Wall, freshly erected, slicing families apart overnight. One step, one decision, and this soldier risks everything. His rank, his freedom, maybe even his life. Why? Because sometimes humanity wins over orders. This single act of courage whispers louder than any speech. Even in a divided world, compassion can't be fenced in. Would you have taken that risk? This haunting image shows Berlin in 1945, a city once full of life, now nothing more than broken bones of buildings. Streets where children once played have turned to ashes. The war was over, but peace didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence. Every shattered wall whispered the cost. Millions gone, families erased, dreams buried under rubble. Imagine walking here, hearing only the crunch of glass beneath your feet, knowing this was all because of humanity's darkest decisions. Berlin wasn't just destroyed physically, it was a graveyard of hopes. And yet, from these ruins, a new world would rise. But at what price? This photo freezes a moment in 1915 during one of the bloodiest campaigns of World War I, Gallipoli. British soldiers brace behind a massive 60-pounder gun, their faces hardened by exhaustion and fear. Every pull of the trigger meant another deafening roar, another rain of destruction, but also the chance they might not live to hear it again. Imagine the heat, the smoke, the stench of gunpowder mixed with sweat and death. They weren't fighting for glory anymore. They were fighting to survive another hour. Behind every blast was a silent prayer to see home again. Some did, many didn't. Looking at this, ask yourself, was the price of war ever worth the cost? In the middle of the chaos of World War II, where life and death collided every second, this moment stands out. A group of American soldiers risking precious time, not for themselves, but for a wounded dog. Look closely. It's not just an animal. It's a comrade who carried messages through gunfire, a silent hero who saved lives. They set aside their fear, their exhaustion, and their own wounds to fight for his. Why? Because even in humanity's darkest hours, compassion finds a way to shine. This photo is a reminder. War destroys, but acts of kindness, no matter how small, can echo forever. This photograph from 1930 hides a dark truth about humanity's past. A European traveler poses proudly next to two local men and the lifeless body of a gorilla, a majestic creature reduced to a trophy. Back then, colonial expeditions weren't just about exploration. They symbolized domination over nature and people. This image forces us to ask, what did victory mean when it came at the cost of life and dignity? Today, this scene feels unsettling, almost unthinkable, but remembering it matters. Because only by facing these shadows can we understand how far we've come, and how fragile compassion still is when power speaks louder than respect. March 1953, Joseph Stalin is dead. For millions, his name meant fear, famine, and the crushing weight of an iron fist. But here, in front of a small Ukrainian restaurant in America, a sign offers free borscht to celebrate his death. Look closely. There's joy in their faces, a silent relief that history's darkest shadow had finally lifted. For those who fled Stalin's terror, this wasn't just a meal, it was closure. It's a striking reminder. When one life ends, sometimes it feels like an entire era dies with it. And yet, behind this moment of celebration, scars remained, deep, invisible, and unforgettable. What would you have felt on that day? 1910, Argentina. A single photograph freezes a haunting reality. Rows of children standing in silence, identical uniforms, shaved heads, and eyes that speak volumes. This wasn't a school picture. It was the Patronato de la Infancia, an institution created to save abandoned or orphaned children. But behind the good intentions lay strict discipline and a system where individuality disappeared. Imagine being just a number in a line, your future dictated by strangers, your childhood replaced with rules. These faces tell a story of survival in an era when poverty was everywhere, and charity often came with control. Looking at this image today, one question lingers. Did these children ever find freedom, or did the walls define who they became? New York City, 1902. This is Central Park Mall, long before smartphones, traffic jams, and neon lights. Look closely. Women in flowing skirts, men in tailored suits, children playing freely. It wasn't just a park, it was the social stage of the Gilded Age. Here, fortunes were flaunted and futures decided with a simple stroll beneath these bare winter trees. But beyond the elegance, life wasn't as picture-perfect. Poverty and inequality lurked just beyond the park's edge. Today, this same path is filled with tourists, joggers, and artists, but in this moment, over a century ago, it was a world of quiet ambition and whispered secrets. If you were here, who would you be walking beside? Mexico, 1940. Step inside this cantina, and you're walking straight into history. The men in sharp suits and fedoras aren't just drinking. They're living in a world where tequila wasn't just a drink, it was a statement of pride. Look at the sign. Tequila numero uno, the king of tequilas. In these smoky rooms, deals were sealed, secrets whispered, and revolutions planned. Outside, the world was changing. War raged across oceans, but here, time felt slower, conversations deeper. Can you imagine the laughter, the clinking glasses, the stories told under dim lights? If this bar could speak, what would it reveal about the dreams and the dangers of that forgotten era? Mexico, 1955. A man stands quietly by a jukebox, what they called a sinfonola. Look closer. That polished chrome, those glowing panels, this wasn't just a machine, it was a time capsule of sound. Each coin dropped wasn't just for a song. It was for an escape, a dance, maybe even a stolen kiss in the corner of a crowded cantina. Rock and roll was just beginning to roar across the world, while boleros still ruled the nights in Mexico. Imagine the anticipation as the record arm slid into place, the crackle of vinyl before the first note hit. For a few minutes, the world outside didn't matter, only the music did. What song do you think he chose?